Hey, Moses here. This video is all about learning how to promote your podcast. Of course, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It can be whatever online content, video content that you're trying to promote, but more so for podcasting because that's the space that I'm currently in. One of the absolute easiest thing to do when trying to promote your podcast is to simply talk about it. Talk about your podcast. When I started with my podcast, I was a bit shy about sharing it with friends and family, and I created some episodes and then I shared the cover of my podcast and my story somewhere on social media, but I was not loud enough about promoting my podcast because genuinely there are people that are interested in your story, in your content. It can be people in your circle, it can be people that you know, but you're not creating your podcast just for the people that you know. Ideally, you want to reach out. My shoulder popped. I'm 30. Relax. You want to reach out to other people so that other people that don't even know who you are can benefit from the content that you're producing. So by even weekly sharing your podcast, reminding your friends, reminding your family that, hey, I do have a podcast. And by the way, here is an upcoming episode. Here is what the episode is about. That will serve you so much better than just announcing your podcast and then not sharing each particular episode that comes out. So remember to share and remind people in your circle to go and listen to your podcast. That is a great way to promote your podcast. Okay, another way to help promote your podcast is to simply go through your podcast, listen to your episodes, and find some parts, maybe a 15-second clip that just captures the essence of what the episode was about, or it captures the essence of what a certain part of the podcast was about, and you can extract that clip and share that as a reel, right? So, and of course, you want to be able to put the name of your podcast somewhere on the reel. All of a sudden, they listen to this 15-second clip and they're like, I wonder what else the entire episode was about, and they might give your podcast a listen. To recap, go through your entire episode, find a particular segment, maybe a 15-second segment, maybe an entire 1-minute segment, extract a really concise part of that episode and publish that as a standalone, not episode, but a social media clip with, of course, don't forget this, a link to the entire episode. Last but most certainly not least, engage with your audience. This is one of the strategies that is often left on the table, but engaging with your audience, whether that is on the different social media platforms that you share those small clips that we talked about, or simply other communities that share the same topic as that episode was about. So, for example, if I have, jeepers, I'm really cracking up today. If I have an episode about the benefits of sleeping, for example, and there are all kinds of different Reddit or Facebook groups that give hints, tips, and tricks on how to get a better sleep, these would be appropriate groups to share that clip with. You don't want to sign up to all kinds of different groups and just start sharing your link to them because it's probably against many groups' policies, but you genuinely want to share those clips, those episodes in groups that would most definitely benefit from your content. Don't just spam people, please. It's the fastest way to lose credibility. So keep that in mind. I want to go back to that first point of sharing your podcast. It doesn't mean just share in your social circles, right? It's like whenever you're talking to somebody that you haven't talked to before, whenever you are engaged in a discourse of sorts and the conversation is appropriate to bring in your podcast, it can be as simple as, hey, what do you do? You can tell the person what it is that you do for a living or to earn an income, but then you can also say, I also run a podcast. I also have a podcast. And you tell them what the podcast is about and how they can find your podcast. These are really basic yet underestimated means of promoting your podcast. And yes, I know people can pay to have their podcasts promoted and all kinds of different programs that do this online. I personally never done that. I don't quite encourage people to do that unless you have a particular reason to do that. But refrain from paying certain platforms to boost or promote your podcast, because then that might bring about a certain audience that you did not necessarily want to come. Or just stay away from paying people to come and listen to your podcast, at least for now. Those are my 2 cents on promoting your podcast. If you got value from this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.